the good, the bad, the ugly, the Dallas Cowboys. Last season, 12-5. The over-under, 10.5. Vegas has them doing well. America's team, some would say America is on decline. We're not the superpower that we used to be. I disagree, but if you look at the Cowboys as an example of America, you might be right. I mean, I saw this tweet the other day and it shook me to my core. The Cowboys, the Lions, and the Commanders are the only teams to not make the NFC Championship at least twice since the Cowboys' last title in the year of our Lord 1996. It is the year of our Lord 2022. It's almost 30 years later, and the Cowboys haven't made an NFC Championship yet. So the season ends in tragedy. Dak been playing football his whole life, doesn't understand clock management. It was a shamakri. How could you even run this play? And, it's a sad commentary. But as always, I always start with the positivity. I'm a positive guy. So let's start with the good. The good, Micah Parsons, defensive rookie of the year, 13 sacks. I mean, his come up, it really shocked me because I thought he was just a stack blocker. I really got into college football. I remember his name being brought up at Penn State, and he's one of the players that opted out due to COVID. Same thing to Jamar Chase and a few other players, Penei Sewell. Three of those guys opted out. All three of them drafted high. All three of them balled out. So, throw that theory out the window, but that's another story for another day. But, when DeMarcus Lawrence got hurt, he started playing the edge. And I don't think this is hyperbole. Other football people have said it. He looks like Lawrence Taylor on the edge. The guy that was voted the best defender of all time. He looks like him. I honestly think he would be the best edge defender in the league if he played there full time. Like, I've never seen a player with this type of versatility. I had no idea that he could play the edge, and he starts playing the edge and he's the best in the league at it. Crazy. Another good, Diggs. He got 11 interceptions last year, and a lot of people, including PFF, will look at his overall tape and say, hey, he's not Richard Sherman. He's not Deion Sanders. He's not one of these pure shutdown corners. And I agree with that. But turnovers are the biggest plays in football. Generally, the team that wins the turnover battle wins. And he helps you do that. He does make you think twice as a quarterback of whether you should throw balls into his coverage. That split second can help a guy like Parsons get home for a sack. Now, he gives up a lot of double moves, but I think as he ages, he's going to be better with that. I mean, the production can't be a lie. To have that many interceptions in one season, for all you do, this butt is for you. Trayvon Diggs. The bad. Okay, so now let's stroll down memory lane for Cowboys fans. This was a positive memory for me. It was a negative memory for Cowboys fans, but you think about the pinnacle of the Cowboys in this modern era. 2014. Romo, Dez, DeMarco Murray. Just a dominant run game. They go up to Lambeau. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? I don't know. They ruled it not a catch, so it must not have been a catch. Okay, it was a catch. It was a catch. I think it was a catch. It would be a catch now, but they said it wasn't a catch. They lose that game. They don't get to the NFC Championship. The rest is history. But thinking about that catch, again, it brings me back to how dominant that run game was, how dominant the offensive line was. They had Ronald Leary, young Ty Smith, Fredericks at center, Zach Martin at one guard, and they had Doug Free. And a couple band members have switched out here and there. Collins has come in, but it's still been a dominant unit. But this year, 2021, I think it kind of hit a wall. It began when Fredericks retired. He had, that disease that came out of nowhere that he had to stop playing for a year. He gave it one more year, he retired. No Fredericks 2021. His replacement was solid, wasn't the greatest. Collins leaves in free agency this offseason. Smith is breaking down in front of our eyes. So the position that was the true anchor of the most dominant Cowboys team in my lifetime, the true foundation, the running game has kind of disintegrated. The offensive line has disintegrated. And I mean, that just has to be bad. Now, they've done some things to bring in some new guys. Like I said, they drafted Tyler Smith, who, again, I watch a lot more college football now, but I think he's from Tulsa, and I don't do draft evaluations. They say the boy holds, that's all he does is hold. They had another boy, Connor Williams, that they let go, that all he did was hold. So maybe they like players that hold. I don't know. And then they drafted a 5th round guard, Matt Waldzo. So I don't know. One thing I'll give the Cowboys, this is a bad section, but one thing that you truly have to give them is they've drafted really well the past couple of years. Since Junior Jones has taken over a bigger role, they've done bigger things. I don't think his name is even Jerry Jones Jr., but Stephen Jones, I think. But I call him Junior Jones. Junior Jones has been doing his thing. You have to give him credit. He's not just some old bumbling rich kid's son. He actually puts the work in, and he's drafted really well. So, but the bad has to be the offensive line. The ugly is Dak and Zeke. You know, these are supposed to be the 2 cornerstones of your franchise. And with Dak, they calling that boy the Black Kirk Cousins. Me personally, I call him junk stat Dak, or prevent Dak fence, because he's terrible versus the great teams, and he's good versus the good teams. He's good versus the bad teams. And versus the terrible teams, he likes to get these junk stats when the team is playing prevent defense and the game is out of hand. And let me give you an example if you think I'm being unfair to him with that. So if you think I'm being unfair to Dak, let me give you this stat. Since 2018, the Cowboys have not beaten a team that has played in the divisional round of the playoffs. You know, they expanded the playoffs now, so there's extra teams in, and you're getting the Saints of, I believe it was the Bears of 2 years ago, and this year you got the Eagles, and, you know, just a couple teams that just don't deserve to be there that get mollywopped in the end, right? So I can't really look at playoff teams and wildcard teams, divisional teams, teams that have gotten one game away from the NFC Championship game. They have not beaten one of those teams since 2018. Last year, they were 0-3. They played the Niners in a playoff game. They obviously lost. They played the Chiefs. They scored 9 points. They played the Bucks the first game of the season. It was a close-ish game, but they lost that one as well. They're 0-6 versus those teams. And I think a lot of that, again, is Dak. He just does not, you just go back and look at the stats. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just go back and look at the stats. He does not play well versus good teams. If you're a Cowboy fan, do you feel with Dak you can go play Mahomes in a shootout? Do you feel that you can go beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau with Dak? Do you feel that you could beat Tom Brady in Tampa Bay with Dak, or even at home? They lost at home to Jimmy G. And then the final play of that game, you know, Dak's Madden awareness has to be 50. I mean, what the hell are you doing? Get down. Get down. Spike the ball. So it's really not good. And then he's encouraging fans to throw things at the officials at the end of the game. This is a veteran quarterback. To me, and I always gave this opinion that the Cowboys should have rolled it out with Tony Romo, and they're going to be suffering from the curse of Tony Romo for a while now. It wasn't right that one season they get rid of Romo for Dak. You know, the young thing comes by you and you ready to leave your wife of 10 years for this young thing that's doing, you know, IG pictures. Like, come on, man. Show some more class. You know, the Cowboys did not show class and grace with Tony Romo, and they're playing for it in spades. And so now they have a quarterback in Dak who's a vulture. He feasts on the dead bad teams, but when the good teams come, he goes ducking and running. And then Zeke's my guy. I remember he came out of Ohio State. Remember he used to do the crop top and all. The crop top days is over. The boy is looking hefty. Feed me. He's taking feed. No, stop feeding me. It looks like he's just a power back now. Now, the last season, he had 100 more carries than the backup Pollard, but only 300 more yards. And the yards per carry difference was astronomical. 5.5 for Pollard, 4.2 for Zeke, which is league average. So now it's best shape of my life season. They're both showing off pictures of their bodies like Instagram thotties. So we'll see if this translates into better production, but I'm not sure. So let's go to 3 things to look for. First, I think this is a make or break season for Dak. He got paid last year. He pushed for a shorter deal because he wanted to double dip and get more money when the CBA jumps and the TV rights deal spikes. But I think he might have played himself because I know that Jerry Jones is getting impatient. With his age, he wants to win. And again, he's watching the same game I'm watching. And I'm sure he doesn't feel comfortable playing these teams. I'm sure he's noticing when we play these top teams, man, I don't feel we can compete with them. I don't feel that our quarterback can compete with the other team's quarterback because the other roster, like I said, they've put together good rosters. These are good rosters. So why is it that we keep coming up short? We have to look at the signal caller. 9 points versus the Chiefs. 17 points at home versus the Niners. And we had 7 points going into the fourth quarter. What's going on? So I think this is a big year for him. As I mentioned, the O-line and Zeke, those are another thing to look for. Is it time to start a complete new rebuild in those 2 positions? Or can they, shuffle players in and out on the offensive line? And, the running back position is a dime or a dozen. If Zeke's not cutting it, maybe it's Pollard's time to shine. The second thing I'm looking for is the loss of Amari Cooper. The Cowboys traded Amari Cooper for a Coke and a smile in March. They threw in some 5th-round picks like, get rid of him. And then in April, Christian Kirk signs for $17 million, and the wide receiver market just completely changes. So players that were below, to me, Amari Cooper's caliber started getting traded for 1st-round picks. So you can't really blame them. It's just a timing. If they would have been more patient, they would have gotten more. But now CeeDee Lamb is the number 1 receiver. Can he step up to that position? If you listen to Hard Knocks, you heard a couple of his teammates saying, hey, this guy could lead the league in receiving. The Cowboys lost Amari Cooper, but they also lost Cedric Wilson. And Gallup is still recovering from his ACL surgery. So this turned one of the deepest units in football, in my opinion, the Cowboys wide receiver core, into a core that has a lot of question marks. Now, I do love the signing of James Washington. He's been playing with the corpse of Big Ben for his entire career. But I remember him out of Oklahoma State. He was a vertical receiver. He was an explosive receiver. I think he could really emerge with the boys this year. I love that signing. It's one of my favorite signings of the offseason. And finally, the last thing I'm looking at is the defense. I'm not a believer in Dak. I'm just not, if you haven't noticed. So I think for this Cowboys team to finally get over the hump, to really become the team that Jerry Jones is hoping that they become and get to an NFC championship and get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, they're going to have to do it with a defense. So it can't be a middle of the road defense. It has to be the top 5 to 10 defense. Last year, they were 1st in total yardage on offense and 19th on total yardage on defense. They're going to have to change that. This is where you're going to need Parsons and Diggs to step up and take leaps. They made the addition of Malik Hooker in the offseason, the former number 1 pick out of Ohio State, who was billed like an Earl Thomas lookalike, single high safety weapon. and it was never really given the opportunity to play that with the Colts. Obviously, single high safety is, Dan Quinn's mother's milk. So, he's the architect of LOB. They don't play as much cover 3 as they used to, but I think that he can really thrive in that single high role. Then you have to look at players like Leighton Vander Esch. He had a spark when he started. Now he's just garbage. Can he return to the Pro Bowl form that we saw his first few years in the league? Because if he can, it will give the Cowboys some flexibility to allow Micah Parsons to play on the line more. And that is, to me, the number one question of the Cowboys offseason is, what do they do with Parsons? They haven't fully committed to playing him as an edge player. Does that change? Can D. Lawrence stay healthy? Can they get some production up the middle from guys like Tristan Hill and the rookie Osa? If all these things kind of hit right with Diggs on the outside and Brown, who's a solid player, at the other corner, you're looking at a team that could surprise some people and become a top 5 to 10 defense. And an NFC, which I think is historically weak. So the Cowboys over under, like I mentioned, is 10.5. They play the NFC North, which is, again, a division that's reeling. You would have Green Bay as the best team there, but they have a receiving core that is just full of question marks. And you play the AFC South, pound for pound, probably the worst division in football when it comes to quarterback play, when it comes to weapons, wide receiver weapons. So these are two of the weaker divisions in football. So if you do like the Cowboys, that 10.5 play, it might be a good play. The bad thing is that this season, it starts off pretty rough for the Cowboys. They start off with the Bucks. The bad thing is that they start the season off with a pretty tough schedule. The Bucks and the Bengals, a team that made the Super Bowl last year and the team that won the Super Bowl the season before. Then you have 2 division games versus the Giants and Washington, and then back-to-back road games versus Philly and the Rams. So, if they can get out of that stretch relatively healthy, they should be favored against every other team that they play besides the Packers. And again, who are they supposed to throw the ball to in Green Bay? And then maybe the Colts. They have the best QB in the division, but probably the second best roster top to bottom. I really like the Eagles roster, but I do think 10.5 is reasonable, but I wouldn't take it because that early stretch, they would probably have to win at least half of those games and most likely 4 out of the 2 games, 2/3 of them. And I think that's just going to be a tough road to sled, especially with all the travel. Some of the best prop bets for the team, I see that CeeDee Lamb to lead the league in receiving yards is plus 1,300. He's going to be the only familiar face that Dak is going to have in that receiving room. Initially, Gallup, again, is coming off of ACL surgery. So I think they're going to feed him a lot. They want to also prove that they were correct in saying that he can be this guy. So I think that there's going to be an organizational push to get this guy the ball and see what he can do. I like Parsons leading the league in sacks. I would take a flyer on that one, but I would wait to see how he's deployed week 1. Again, that 10.5, it just depends on that early stretch. Those are serious games. So, I would probably say I would have them going under it and maybe 10-7. So, but I'm not pounding the table on it. Again, I think the Cowboys draft really, really well. They've hit draft after draft on these players, and there's no reason to believe that they won't continue to hit. So that's the good, the bad, the ugly, the Cowboys. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. The game is a game. All right. Thank you for watching this clip. Do me a favor. Push the button. Hit subscribe. Come on, man. Push it.
Call everybody up. Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button. You heard what she said.
Man, do what's right. You heard her. Push the button. The game is a game.
So what's up, man? What's up with you otherwise, The game is a game. Always.